Okay, part two of my journey to New York City. So we've left Florida. We have just moved to Las Vegas. We drove across the country. It took 3 days to drive there. Um, one, um, one speeding ticket. And we get there, we have our apartment, and we were broke. We could not afford mattresses. So we slept on the floor for the first few nights. And then we found a place that was selling $75 mattresses. And that's what we bought. And then we were just sleeping on literally mattresses on the floor for a while. We couldn't afford any furniture. We didn't bring any furniture with us because they had their SUV. I had my Civic. And so we went to Walmart and they had boat chairs, literally the chairs that you like drill into the boat. But they weren't attached to anything. It was just the scoop of the chair. So we picked up two of those, and then a camp chair, like one of the, the ones you can like fold out and like people use them for sporting events and stuff. Like we had one of those. And whoever sat in that was extra lucky because the boat chairs are just the scoop, which means you can't lean back. You have to actually put all of your weight forward to be able to sit in it because there's no support, there's no legs, there's nothing. It's just on the floor, the scoop of a chair. It was ridiculous. But that's what we had in our living room was that. I brought my TV. They didn't bring a TV with them. Or if maybe they did, but they kept it in their room. I put my TV in the living room so that we could have something in the living room. So we had just the two boat chairs, the foldable chair, and a TV in the living room. They also, my friend brought her elliptical. Why that was the most important thing, I don't know. She'd never used it. I think she got it for Christmas before we moved. We moved there in February of 2008. So for Christmas, she had gotten the elliptical. She hadn't even taken it out of the box. So she brought that with, but she also didn't take it out of the box when we moved there for quite a while. And we used that box as our dining room table. We were so poor. And FYI, we never got furniture. Like, as long as I lived in that apartment, there was no furniture in the living room. It was, I think maybe we got some different chairs or something. I know we got a dining room table at some point because we were like, we got to do something. That's what we did. We just used the chairs from the dining room table. We got a dining room table. That was it. We did not have a couch. We never got like a entertainment center or anything like that. No coffee table. There was none of that in the living room. The living room was empty except for a desk that we eventually got. And then the dining room table was in the dining room. We would use those chairs from the dining room table to watch TV. Crazy. And so anyway, after, I don't know, maybe 4 months, we were going to college. Me and my best friend, we had both started college together. After about 4 months, my best friend was like miserable. And don't get me wrong, this was not an easy move. Like, it was the first time I had ever been away from my family. Luckily, I had my best friend, thank goodness. But like, it was not easy. I was so homesick, and my little brother had just been born. My little brother was born September of 2007, and I moved in February of 2008, and I was living in the house. So it's like, I just got to see his little baby face for those few months, and then I left. Like, it was so hard. And I can remember calling my dad and just like crying, sobbing, like, I miss you so much. And he would just be like, move back. And I'm like, stop saying that. You're supposed to support me being away. And so she was miserable, and she was like, I think I'm going to move. Now, we had made an agreement that we would stay for a year. We would, no matter what, whoever was unhappy had to agree to the full year because of bills. Like, we were signing a lease and everything. So we agreed to the full year. And so she was trying to hold on, but she definitely was going through some depression. Like, it was hard for a lot of us, and it was hard for me, but I wasn't depressed. I was just sad. And she stopped going to school. I couldn't get her to go to the school with me. Like, it was definitely a really hard time for her. And I think that her and her husband also probably weren't doing too well. So that had something to do with it. So by September, she was like, I'm moving back to Florida. She's like, I'll continue to pay my portion of the rent and all of the bills. But I'm moving back to Florida. So she moved, I want to say September she moved, and then her husband stayed for an extra month. Which, by the way, I'm very good friends with her husband as well. Like, not to say that we weren't friends. We were very good friends as well. But he stayed for an extra month, and then he went back to Florida. And then it was just me in the apartment, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was doing good in school. Like, school was pretty good for me. It was, I think this college was the best schooling that, the most inspired I felt in school, I guess I should say. I think I had undiagnosed ADHD my whole life, so I don't think that I realized that could be a problem. But it was a tough time because I just didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I was very lonely. I hadn't made a lot of friends, and the friends that I had made were just like, you know, not people that you really want to rely on. And I remember right after both of them had been completely gone and I was really feeling lonely, they moved while I was actually visiting Florida. So I'd flown home to Florida, and I think Kelly flew out to Vegas to help her husband move out of the apartment, and then they drove back across the country, and I flew home to an empty apartment feeling extremely sad and lonely. First thing, I have to go to work, and so I get in my car, go to start it, and my car won't start, and I just like, I break down crying. I was like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know anybody. Like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with this situation. Like, I just was not well equipped to be in this. So I called work, and I'm like telling my manager, not Pat, not Uncle Pat. He wasn't there that night. It was freaking this other guy, Don, who I couldn't stand. And I'm like, my car won't start. And he's like, well, can't you just call somebody to drive you to work? And I'm like, I don't know anybody. And I like called my dad. I'm telling him, and he's like, you don't know a neighbor who could like jump you? I'm like, no, I don't know anyone. I don't know how else to say this to you. But you know, when those things happen, oh, and then like within the next week, I got a flat tire. So that happened. And then I did something else. Like, it was like, I was like, everything comes in threes, like 3 bad things happen. Boom, boom, boom. And, but you know, literally right after that, it was like I was hanging out with somebody from work who I really liked, and she was in a relationship. She was engaged to somebody, and then shortly after that, like, they broke up, and then she and I just clicked and like became best friends. And then I kind of just found my group of people, and it, you know, it's so crazy how it happens when you really need it. And she just became like my rock, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't have stayed in Vegas if it wasn't for my friend Danny. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. And then shortly after that, I like started dating somebody. So like, things were just really picking up, and I was in debate on whether I was moving back to Florida or not after the year was up. I really couldn't afford the apartment that I was living in by myself. So once my year was up, I wasn't going to have Kelly and Donnie's portion of all of my bills paid. So I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do for that time period? And then I talked to my dad, and my dad was like, I will, if you promise me you're going to finish college and get a bachelor's degree, I will help you stay in Vegas. And I was like, I promise I'm going to do that. So that's what I did. I moved into a different apartment that was closer to my job. It was actually like a minute from my job. It was really nice, to be that close. And it was a nice apartment. I loved it. In Summerlin, Vegas, which is the northwest part, which is what I was talking about, is nice, not northern. I ended up staying for like 2.5 years, and finishing college. I went there until I had to, until my last semester. My last semester, I was determined to move to New York. It's what I wanted. It was always the plan. Like, according to my mom, I don't know if this is a true story or not, but according to my mom, ever since I could basically talk, I've been saying I want to move back to New York. Like, I remember being a kid and being upset that we didn't stay in New York. I know I remember that, but so it was always the plan. Once I knew I was going to go to fashion school, I was like, cool, then I'll end up in New York. Perfect. And so anyway, I started going to try to get an internship in New York so that I'd already be there. There would be no excuse for me not to get a job in New York after I was done with my internship. I purposefully made my classes to where they were going to be all online with my internship, so that I could go to New York. And so I was flying to go try to get an internship. I think I came to New York twice to try to get an internship. Could not get one to save my life. Not a paid internship, by the way, just a free one. I could not get a free internship to save my life. It was the craziest thing. I interviewed for several. And then I was telling my dad that, like, after my second trip, I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I can't get an internship. Like, I'm trying so hard. And he's like, let me see if I can pull some strings and get you something. So I was like, okay, cool. So he had called his childhood friend from New York, Ralph. And if you are a little bit older, if you're 45 plus, I would say, maybe even 40 plus, but 45 plus and from New York, you will know who Ralph is. And my dad's like, yeah, I called Ralph. He said that he can get you into FUBU. And I was like, okay. So flew back out to New York, met up with Ralph, and I haven't seen Ralph since I was like a child, so I barely remember him. And he takes me to the Empire State Building. We go to, I believe it was the 66th floor, if I remember correctly, into FUBU's offices. We go into Damon John's office directly, just walk right in. And he's like, oh, Ralph, blah, 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 blah. And they're talking, and he's like, hey, this girl is like my niece. Can you give her an internship? And Damon's like, yeah, no problem. She could work here. Great. Cool. Awesome. I can't believe we just did that. And it was that easy. Ralph is Ralph McDaniels. Legendary. And I didn't know that he was legendary when this was all happening. I actually had no freaking clue at how legendary this man is. He got hip hop and rap on TV. It started because of him. He was the one who started a music channel for Black artists, and he used to interview everybody. He knows everybody in the rap game knows who Ralph McDaniels is. Everybody calls him Uncle Ralph. I've always called him Uncle Ralph, but I didn't know everybody called him Uncle Ralph. There's a whole documentary about his life. Crazy. Anyway, so I was able to get my internship at FUBU, got that going. So I flew back. I was so excited, but I'm also terrified. I'm still the same person. So I did not save and plan for moving to New York. Like, I had some money, but I didn't have New York money. So I had no clue what I was gonna do. So now it's like this search for an apartment. Where am I gonna live? What am I gonna do? Oh my God, you know? And I also didn't have a job planned, by the way. Like, I don't even know what I was thinking. Anyway, I was like, internship is the first step. I'll figure the rest out as I go. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. This wasn't like a week beforehand or anything. Like, I gave myself some time to get it worked out, but so I think it was maybe 2 months, maybe. And I'm calling Kelly, and I think as time is going on, I'm calling Kelly and I'm freaking out. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna live in New York by myself. Like, I don't know anybody. Like, I have some family here, but not anyone that I'm close with. Like, I'm gonna move to New York? Like, what was I thinking? Why did I think that I could do this? Like, I was terrified. And Kelly's just trying to be as supportive as she can and walk me through it, and she's amazing in that way. But I was just super freaked out. So anyway, one day I get a phone call from Kelly on like a Sunday afternoon, I want to say. And I'm like, hey, and she's like, oh my God, you're never gonna guess what just happened. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I drove up to New York and stayed with my aunt and uncle in Long Island, and I applied for a job and I got it. So I'm gonna move to New York with you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And, oh, by the way, I mean, this is a whole nother side story, but her and her husband did officially get divorced at that time. So she's single. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I came to New York and I got a job. And I'm like, a job where? And she's like, at a restaurant. And I'm like, you're going to move to New York for a restaurant? She's like, no, I'm moving to New York because we said we were going to live in New York together. I'm moving to New York for us to live together. That's why I'm moving there. I just got a job that happens to be in a restaurant. And I'm like, what? It was like the happiest day of my life. I was so happy. She's like, yeah, so now we can just figure it out. She's like, and I talked to my aunt and uncle. They said you can stay here for a little while. So you can come here and then we'll figure out our apartment and that's what we'll do. And I'm like, okay. And that was it. So she actually came to New York before me to start the job, because she also didn't tell them that she didn't live in New York. When she applied for the restaurant job, she told them that she was already in New York. So she's like, I have to fly. She's like, I have to drive home, get all of my stuff, and move here quick. I'm like, okay. So she moved before I did, and got a job at Bubblegum Shrimp Company in Times Square. And she's like, I can try to get you a job here. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I don't remember how exactly that happened, but I did get a job at Bubba Gump's. And that's where I worked when I first moved here. So so she flew out to Vegas when it was time for me to move. We drove across the country together in my Civic again. And that alone was a wild ride. Like, we're driving and she was in charge of the directions because I was driving. My Civic is a stick shift and Kelly can't drive a stick shift. So I had to drive the whole way, which I'm fine with. I like driving. So I'm like, you're in charge of the directions. And she's like, okay. And we haven't seen each other in a while. Like, I don't know how long. It was probably a couple months. So we're just chatting it up. We're in the car. We're excited. We're going to live in New York together. Like, it's this exciting time. And all of a sudden, Kelly's like, uh-oh. And I'm like, what? She's like, we missed a turn. And I'm like, how long ago? And she's like an hour. I'm like, I'm not turning around. We got to find a new route. You better just find a route on this. No way. Rerouting. But anyway, so that took 3 days as well to drive. So drove to New York, moved in with her aunt and uncle, Uncle Dan and Aunt Linda. Thank you so much for your support. And lived in Amityville for, I think they gave us like a month. I think they said you guys can stay here for a month. So we had to find something after that. So I'm going to end this here. And then part 3 is going to be getting an apartment in New York City. Buckle up.